Thank you for watching Lakeshore Report. I'm Hillary Powell. Kristen Estes is off this week. Officials say operations have returned to normal at Whiting's BP Refinery after an explosion and fire occurred around 9 p.m. Wednesday night. According to a statement posted on the company's website, the refinery experienced an operational incident on a process unit on the north end of the refinery. BP's in-house fire department responded to the incident, and they say the fire was extinguished by 11 p.m. One employee was taken to a local hospital as a precaution and released later the same day. Officials say refinery operations were minimally impacted by the event. A federal judge is deliberating the future of legal challenges to same-sex marriage bans in Indiana and Wisconsin. Oral arguments regarding the case this week were held in the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals in Chicago. Legal challenges in both states were deemed similar enough to be combined into a single case. Supporters of same-sex marriage held rallies in Indiana. Plaintiffs in the case spoke in Munster ahead of the court appearance, while Indiana's Attorney General issued his comments in a videotaped statement after the hearing.
And we're hoping that one day soon, none of us is going to have to play that game that we've all been playing for the last year or two, where you cross the state line when you're traveling and you look at each other and wonder whether or not you're married.
The argument in the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals is the one time in the case where the lawyers can speak directly to the judges, and vigorous questioning by the judges is how the appellate process is supposed to work. Since the larger legal questions could end up before the United States Supreme Court, this Seventh Circuit hearing is one important step in the process.
Each side has expressed their intent to appeal the case if the judge rules against them, meaning the case is likely to end up in the Supreme Court. An effort is underway to use technology to bring local farmers in contact with more local consumers. Food hubs use internet ordering style and co-op transportation options to make local crops and produce available to consumers. The systems are often compared to online farmers markets, where residents place an order from a local grower and pick up goods at a nearby facility. Purdue University's Extension Service is conducting a series of meetings to study the feasibility of creating more food hubs in Indiana. A public meeting will be held in Valparaiso Wednesday, September 3rd. Residents can learn more about food hubs and share their thoughts on creating one here in the region. For more information, visit the project's website at indianafoodhubs.org. The past 2 weeks in Ferguson, Missouri have opened the lid on a litany of community issues after the shooting death of an unarmed African-American teenager by a white police officer sparked protests. Steve Walsh sat down with 2 local religious leaders to talk about the next steps to encourage unity and understanding nationwide and in Northwest Indiana.
The shooting of an unarmed teen by a police officer in Ferguson, Missouri has touched off a discussion around the country on race and the role of police. To talk about it, we have Reverend Cheryl Rivera, Executive Director of Interfaith Federation of Northwest Indiana, and Reverend Charles Striedelmeyer, who chairs their clergy caucus. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
So the shooting of Michael Brown happened on August 9th, weeks ago. Why are we still talking about this? Reverend Rivera?
I think we're still talking about it because it has national implications, and it's really raising an awareness of something that's been going on, I think, in the urban community for a very, very long time. While it's not just a single incident, I think people were really astonished at the militarization of police. They were really, really shocked to see police come out just armed as if there was a war against the people.
Reverend Striedelmeyer, is that why we're still talking about it? Because of the role of the police initially during those first few days, or is there something really larger here?
I think there are larger patterns going on as we are seeing the overlaying of class on top of race. I have a deep concern that for a long period of time now, throughout the world, larger and larger numbers of people are being marginalized and written off, actually expelled from where life takes place. So I think there are a fair number of people who are not young black men who identify with Michael Brown's fate.
We've seen a lot of the coverage. Whites talk about how there really hasn't been a problem here in Ferguson. African Americans take the exact opposite view. Take it back here to Northwest Indiana. Do you see a same dynamic in this community?
I see some significant similarities because, as Reverend Streetemeyer said, the underlying cause is really about poverty, and it's really about concentrated poverty. And when people don't have access to opportunity, good jobs and good education, then it breeds violence. And we have a potential for that kind of thing happening in Northwest Indiana because we've got a high rate of poverty and we have a high rate of unemployment, particularly in the urban core.
Do you potentially see if something like that happened here, and the shooting of by police of anyone, let alone of an unarmed African American, it tends to be a rare occurrence. But if that happened here, do you think the way this community is structured that we'd do a better job of handling it?
I'm not so sure about that because while we are concerned about a white police officer shooting a young African American male, we're also concerned about what's happening in terms of the crime in the African American community and disparaged communities overall. So that I think sometimes it's easy for people to think about what's happening far away rather than looking in their own backyard. So I think that we need to begin to look at how can we restructure opportunities in all disparaged communities, including here in Northwest Indiana. That's a real concern. Not really kind of overemphasizing what's going on in Ferguson, but looking at how we can address those disparities here in Northwest Indiana.
Have we laid the groundwork in Northwest Indiana a little better than they might have done in Ferguson, Missouri?
I think some of our police departments have more experience with working with diverse populations. But I do think that just to give you an example of some of the economic basis of our concern, we're completing a $166 million expansion of the Gary Airport. The Northwest Indiana Federation has been pleading for set-asides on the payroll here, 30% set aside for people in disparaged communities. To date, I believe less than 8% of the payroll has been paid to people who live in Gary, even though the airport is located there. Our experience has been that poor people have had doors slammed in their faces on these jobs.
In the end, it really all comes down to jobs, you think?
I think a large part of it does because people who have something to live for are less likely to throw their lives away.
Well, unfortunately, that's where we're going to have to leave it. Reverend Streetemeyer, Reverend Rivera, thanks to both of you for being on.
Okay, all right, thank you.
From talks of reconciliation, we turn now to an effort to rebuild. Indiana's top political leader was in Gary, Indiana Wednesday to commemorate a week honoring musician Michael Jackson, and the tune of his message was service. This weekend kicks off Gary's Jackson Street of Dreams project, meant to revitalize the neighborhood around Jackson's boyhood home. Governor Mike Pence toured 3 homes built by an unlikely group of volunteers. This man with a hammer is doing the work inspired by the singer of The Man in the Mirror.
It's been awesome for me, being in a closed environment, to finally get out doing some pro-social lifestyle stuff. It's been awesome. Hold on, let's see what is that.
54-year-old Victor Thomas is part of a work crew using a festival this week in musician Michael Jackson's Gary, Indiana hometown to help rehab 4 homes. It's a joint project between the city of Gary and the Fuller Center for Housing.
They have helped us over the past 3 weeks. Actually, they worked on the sites, gutting out the rehab, the homes we're rehabbing.
The homes sit on a famous street, just steps from 2300 Jackson Street, Michael Jackson's childhood home. The effort drew the attention of Indiana Governor Mike Pence, who toured the site.
People coming in from all over the state of Indiana and all over the country to really restore what is one of the most famous streets in America.
Way to go, Mayor.
Volunteers, including Gary Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson,
I put in some time too. I learned to lay siding.
Nailed, drilled, and patched the frames of the homes in a week-long blitz build.
A blitz build is, okay, let's get it done in a week to show the commitment. You don't have to be, professionally skilled, but, just have a willing heart.
A skill Thomas says he's got. It's his first time being on a home construction crew, a dream he couldn't achieve within the past decade. He spent the last 10 years not behind walls, but bars, serving time in Indiana's Pendleton Correctional Facility for a felony.
Being in prison, you know what I'm saying, you do have to learn how to rethink and live a different way after living so long in an antisocial world. After they told me about helping someone build a house for them, then it got to a personal aspect of it.
Thomas is one of a dozen minimum security inmates from the Department of Corrections working to flip the properties. He and other inmates also raised $53,000 for the project. Officials say it's the largest single donation ever collected by the DOC.
Not only have they raised the money, they put in sweat equity. Them contributing to the community, I think, is one of the clear signs that they have, in fact, they are on the road to rehabilitation.
Program officials say long after this build is complete and the tools put away, they hope the workers will learn life lessons that will remain with them in the future.
They're picking up skills. Some of them, at least one of them was a professional roofer beforehand. Others have had light carpentry skills. Others are really learning on the job.
Thomas has 3 years left to serve on his sentence, and he says the work is welcome experience.
And I wanted to familiarize myself with working back out in society. When I share this with my family, you know, it's awesome not only for me but for them also, you know, saying that, hey, man, one day I can bring my kids back and show them what I did.
The income that they generated is going to go to making this Street of Dreams what it once was.
Freeman Wilson says the privately funded project is helping to create a more appealing Steel City.
How you looking? I know.
But this is a rehab project where perhaps the most change is internal.
And just hopefully that this will, you know, impact others, you know what I'm saying, to step up and do these kind of things.
Future owners receive keys to their homes this weekend. Another kind of community support is growing on one local college campus. Reporter Sarah Holst shows how the school is partnering with a local organization to fight hunger in the region.
Food insecurity is a problem that affects people in nearly every community and reaches across barriers of race, gender, and age. While the idea of a young college student struggling to pay for food may seem like a cliche, students and faculty at one local college recognized that the problem was real among their own campus family. Their efforts to impact hunger are now receiving some outside attention that's helping spread their mission even further.
It's been referred to as a silent crisis.
It's something that you don't think about until something is taken away. You just don't realize something that comes so easily to you can be so hard to come by.
Food insecurity affects a wide range of Americans, including college students. A 2014 report from Feeding America, the nation's largest network of food banks, shows that nearly 1 in 10 adults seeking food assistance last year were students. At Calumet College of St. Joseph in Whiting, staff and students began to talk about the hunger problem.
Faculty and students got together and they started talking about what they'd seen where students couldn't afford food, so they were relying on faculty members to bring them leftovers or buy them lunch. And it was just very common for students to struggle to afford food. So out of that discussion, they came up with the idea of a food pantry.
Once we started noticing the need, that's when we were like, let's get this started, let's get a food bank started.
GIVE, a student service organization, opened the campus food pantry to students, faculty, and staff in 2013.
Basically just come down, they get two of our reusable bags that say CCSJ Food Pantry, and they can fill us up 2 at one time, 2 per visit to the pantry, and they're allowed to pick food of their choosing from everything that we have. We try to make it as confidential as we can, so we can make them feel more comfortable coming down.
The campus community held a 24-hour donation marathon to help stock the shelves.
It was called Camp Out for Hunger. So the students had a competition, girls versus boys, who could raise the most donations in food. And that's when they camped out 24 hours in Alumni Park on our campus, and they called different people and said, come out, bring donations, and they actually slept in boxes to really see how it is to be homeless as well. So we were trying to communicate 2 different things to them.
But as the need continues, keeping items in stock has been a challenge, until now. The student-run CCSJ Food Pantry now has a partnership with the Food Bank of Northwest Indiana, which provides shipments once a week.
We didn't have enough quality and quantity of food to meet the need here, so we partnered with the food bank in order to get better quality and a greater amount of food.
The pantry can now offer items like meat, produce, and hygiene products.
We are able now to provide just an array of things right now, as you can see on the shelves, that we weren't really able to get, and we're able to get fresh items too, which is really good.
We already have, I think, about 10 new clients, so that's great. We want to keep getting new people to come in. We want them to not feel ashamed, to know that this is there for them and that they shouldn't be embarrassed about it. We actually get a lot of international students too, because they're just coming to the country and they're paying for tuition and housing, so they don't have a lot of money for food. So they seem to really appreciate this.
The student volunteers running the food pantry also benefit by gaining valuable work skills.
I helped set up the pantry, and I was involved in the planning and organization process.
They're learning how to write grants, they're learning how to coordinate schedules, all types of leadership skills which are transferable to the workforce.
Organizers say they're still working to make students aware of the service, and the support they've received is encouraging.
We just want to increase our clientele, more new and returning members, and to know that this is here if they need it.
I'm just glad that everyone has an open ear and an open heart here to give.
Student organizations at Calumet College still help to keep the shelves full in the food pantry by holding food drives and fundraisers, and they are currently planning this year's Camp Out for Hunger event. Well, up next we have details on a very different kind of event. John Kane tells us how to hear the talents of a future Hoosier star in this week's Eye on the Arts.
Hi, joining me for this edition of Eye on the Arts is Lee Bauman, the Executive Director of the LaPorte County Symphony Orchestra. And Lee, you have I think it's like your biggest deal of the year, right?
It is. It's our largest fundraiser, Hoosier Star. We're in our 9th year there.
Really?
Yeah.
Doing this. So how many contestants are there?
There's 6 youth finalists that are under 18 and 6 adult finalists. They were chosen in March, and now they're going to compete for the time of their life on stage.
And they just get one shot that night, right?
Correct. Yeah, they have to do their best. And it's interesting because usually the performer that really hits the mark and goes beyond or adds emotion is the one that wins. You never know till that night.
And when did it started back in the spring, right, with auditions?
Right, in March.
Okay.
In March they auditioned, and now they're practicing, rehearsing, working with the maestro, and getting the best song they can to win.
So they work with Phil on what song to select to perform. So it's kind of tailored to their unique talents.
Correct. It's all everything's made to their key. We have the Hoosier Star Orchestra, which includes a guitar and keyboard and all kinds of instrument, depending what type of music it is.
Right, and it's a spectrum, I would assume.
Yeah, there's Broadway, there's show tunes, there's pops, there's new stuff. There's one country western person this year. We don't have any opera this year, which we've had before. Yeah, you just never know. It's a fun night. It's really cross-generational.
And the audience gets to vote.
The audience gets to vote. That's why they have to come.
Yeah. So they and it all happens right then and there, obviously.
Right. We have the 6 youth finalists, and then there's a voting and intermission, and then we have the 6 adult finalists, and then there's another voting with an intermission because we have a CPA firm, Smith and Kaler from LaPorte, that tabulate the vote. They have a whole team of 12 people.
Wow.
That hand count these things because we have these great ballot boxes, and it's very secretive and official.
Yeah. So but it's sort of the length of a regular concert, I would assume. Maybe
it goes a little longer because of 2 intermissions, but
super entertaining.
It's very entertaining.
Yeah.
It
sounds so fun. Well, good. Well, thanks for being here to tell us about it, and thank you for watching. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Eye on the Arts. Eye on the Arts is made possible in part by South Shore Arts, the Indiana Arts Commission, and the National Endowment for the Arts, a federal agency.
Before taking some time off, Lakeshore's Kristen Estes made a trip to Hobart to check out a popular local attraction. As you'll see, Kristen and the crew had a blast for this week's Jump in the Lake.
Vince Rivera is one of the refs out here, and you've been with Blast Camp for a while. It's kind of home to you, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Blast Camp is kind of unique. And all you have to do to understand how unique it is just take a look around. These are military facilities, buildings.
Yes, this is a historic landmark. Nike Missile Base C-47 was its designation. The C stood for the Chicagoland area, if I'm not mistaken.
It really makes this facility special that there's so much, not just different venues for play, but there's so much history associated with this place.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes this so unique,
Yeah.
and the fact that it's right here in Northwest Indiana, the ability to actually play on a missile base.
Yeah, it's so cool. But your basic rental gun, it shoots straight when it's clean. If you don't have paint in the barrel, it will shoot straight up to about 30 yards, I guess. It has a compressed air tank on the back. This is a Ninja reg on it. It lets you know how much pressure is in the tank.
And this is the helmet that you have
Yes,
to wear.
well, we call it a mask. Some people call them helmets. It's a goggle system that protects your face, full face protection. Always look out for each other. Just because that player's on the other team does not mean you gotta hate his guts. You're just playing paintball against him, so always look out for one another like you look out for the people that brought you here, okay? The refs got your back, and we're here for you.
Justin, you're on my team. You got the armband. You're an experienced player. What kind of strategy do you generally recommend when you're going into these things?
Well, I usually try to stay away from the big battle, try to go around and surprise the people.
We shouldn't all walk up in one big clump, should we?
No.
Hit! Ow, that was fast. Oh, it was awesome. I was out really fast, but it was fantastic. I mean, the adrenaline rush is huge. I know I look like a huge bug. I look like a giant bug now, don't I? It's a blast. It's Blast Camp. Oh!
Now, I know Kristen said she did have a lot of fun out there. She really enjoyed it. But I have to say, she showed me the bruise on her arm where she was hit by one of the paintballs. It was a pretty good-sized bruise.
Yeah, she was kind of screaming and making some noise out there.
Yeah, she told me as well that one of the paintballs hit nearly on her microphone, which is how we got that wonderful, paintball hit sound. But
Well,
she did enjoy it.
It looked fun, but if you want to find out more about that story, you can always go to our website, lakeshorepublicmedia.org. You can also hit us up on the web for story ideas. You can reach us at tvfeedback@lakeshorepublicmedia.org. You can send your thoughts, questions, concerns, comments about any content or any ideas you have. You can also hit us up on Facebook, on our Facebook page, and you can also reach us on Twitter at Lakeshore Report. We're always active there trying to find out what's going on in the region.
Yeah, I always like hearing from people. Let us know what's going on. A lot happening this weekend, of course, Labor Day weekend coming up. So
yeah, hopefully people get a chance to rest on Monday, but before then, there's a lot of events. I know Gary is celebrating again with the Michael Jackson tribute for his birthday on the 29th of August, but also they're celebrating a lot of things on the lakefront.
that's right. A lot happening this weekend, so enjoy it, that last official weekend of summer.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you here next week for Lakeshore Report.